So last week, we were talking about how life happens and that we need to have those underlying foundations that support us when life happens. So we want to be able to still keep with our healthy life routines as best as we possibly can, and how sometimes they change. And so life has changed for me, life has changed for you, but just recently, like today, you rang and you said to me, you sound flustered. And I've gone, yeah,
Yes.
like I've got chaos going on at the moment. I'm just trying to adjust to, where I am in life right now. And so I thought, and you suggested this, that it was a good opportunity for us to both share something about what was happening in our lives, so that maybe ladies are in the same boat and they will resonate with it, or maybe there's something there that they can take away. So for you, you became a grandmother, and
Yes.
your daughter lives there with your little grandson.
Yes.
And so, having grown up children living with you, and then to have a small child living with you, that has definitely meant lots of changes, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. A
Yeah.
lot of changes.
All right. So do you want to explore some of the changes for you?
So for me, as a lot of you will know, when my daughter had my grandson,
Mm.
she was 17. Yeah, she just turned 7, or she was 17 and a half. So there was a new baby in the house.
Yep.
And so those different changes were happening, waking up during the night. And look, she's very hands-on, and was getting up to him and all that sort of thing. Um, and so he will be 2 in September. So we've noticed in the last 6 months, I guess,
Mm.
um, how his activity is increased.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of chatter, there's a lot of movement. He wakes up of a morning, and because this is my studio here, so when I'm doing my sessions online, he's at the top of the stairs of a morning, and you can
Yeah.
hear him yelling like, "Hey,
Hey.
um,
Mm.
hey," so things like that have changed for me, because I had my son moved out.
Mm-hmm.
I have a 23-year-old daughter. Olivia's now 19, so I have adult children, but now there's a baby in the mix again, type thing. And
Yeah.
so it's back to bottles, and it's back to baby's clothes being washed, and there's always a
Mm.
mess in my lounge room.
Yeah.
But and it's interesting, because this time round, and being the grandmother this time round, the mess doesn't bother me. It's like,
Yeah.
let
Yeah.
him play, that's life, and it's gonna happen, and you've just got to go with the flow. If I don't go with the flow, I'll
Mm-hmm.
drive myself nuts,
Yeah.
because my house isn't tidy, type thing. And who I am. This
Yeah.
was a conversation we would have 5, 6 years ago, and you would say to
Mm.
me, let the little things go. They're still going to be there, type
Yeah.
thing.
That's
Mm.
right. That's right. And it's something that I was actually thinking about on a walk as well too, Sel. I was thinking about how being a mother, in your younger years, whether that's your 20s, your 30s, how different that would be being a mother in your 40s or your 50s, or in my case now, in my 60s.
60s, yeah.
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 And I was thinking about how there's so much knowledge and experience that has been attained over those years,
Yes.
that you can share that knowledge with these little tiny little poppets, but
Yes.
you're also looking at it from a very, very different perspective.
Hmm.
And life is different. When you're in those younger years, it's all about, building the family, and, going and to work or building a career. And so you're very focused on other things. And so whilst you still focused on your kids and everything like that, they're not the priority. They are, but they're not the number one priority, because you're needing that financial backing to be able to support the kids, right? And so, you know, from my perspective, I now have 2 grandchildren living here with us, and they're 7 and 8 years old. And so we've gone from a very quiet house. It's still quiet, because one of the things that these children have said to me is what they love about being here is the peacefulness.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that they're not noisy and that they don't have those moments where they're arguing with one another. They do. But these are kids who have come from an environment where they were always indoors. We're outdoor people.
Yeah.
And so it's trying to build that level of encouragement for them, that outdoors isn't scary, that outdoors can be fun, that it gives you the opportunity to be creative and explore things. And, you know, I had a big smile on my face. I got a photograph of these kids. They're outside, they're digging up the grass. I gave them some spades and shovels and whatnot, and they're looking for rocks, because they're into these different types of rocks. And I said, well, make sure you fill in the holes so we don't fall over. You know, we are old after all. So, oh yeah, you can see them filling up the holes as they go, type of thing. But, you know, one of the other lessons for me, one of the things that I've really, really honed in on, Sal, was the fact that I'm an active person.
Yeah.
So I get up and I exercise every day. I walk because that's my stress release. And so I'm quite active. But I'm also running a business. So I'm also sitting at my desk and doing lots of things in regards to that. And I can honestly say that my activity levels are double what they were.
Yeah.
And isn't that funny? Because I thought I was active.
Yeah.
And by all accounts, I'm probably
you are.
an active. Yeah.
You are. Yeah.
I am an active 60-year-old, you know, or 60-plus-year-old. I am active. But, and it's hard to express, though, but I was thinking about how we think we're active. Mother Nature is playing this little game with us, because we are actually slowing down as we're aging, but we don't have that realization that we are.
Yes.
And just by having these kids around, there was a huge realization, because I'm up and down all the time. You know, as you mentioned, there's washing to do. I could do a weekly wash. I could do a fortnightly wash and probably still get away with it. Yeah. Now, there's washing. There's a constant washing. So you're in and out to the clothesline all of the time. You know, there's beds that they're making their beds, which is fantastic. But, you know, they're getting me to help them some days when they're struggling a little bit. And the other aspect was thinking about meals.
I was just thinking about meals. Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell us about that. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, so for me it was you know, there were nights, because, you know, Livy has soccer training. Georgia works evenings, you know, so she doesn't get home from 8. If I didn't want to cook, it was like, oh, just get your own dinner type thing. And now it's like, okay, well, there's this little person that we have to think about, you know, and it can't be a matter of, you know, just giving him, for want of a better word, crap for dinner. You know, he's got to have veggies and fruit and meat and all those sort of things for dinner. So now it's like, oh, I've come back and I've got to try and think of meals for little people.
Yeah. And I said to them the other night, I served up dinner and they've gone, oh, lasagna. And I said, I've got to tell you a story. I've never made lasagna, ever, in my whole entire life. But you happen to find a recipe for it in a book, and I've looked at it and I've gone, how can I adapt this to it? And I won't actually say the next words. I'll actually tell you what they said. There's probably healthy in this, right? And I said, yeah, you're right. There is healthy in this.
Yeah.
So that they've come to terms with the fact that there's veggies in everything, you know.
Yep.
And they're
There's
not
healthy on everything.
yeah, and they're not complaining about it, you know.
Mm.
And he's a little bit more adventurous and, you know, more active. So he'll come for a little walk. And at first she would do that, and now it's like, nah, don't want to, you know. So you can see this real difference in personality
Yeah.
starting to shine, where she just wants to sit and read a book or color in. And I'm thinking, that is so not me as a child growing up,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, climbing trees and the like. So
Out in the yard and yeah. Yeah.
mm,
Yeah.
yes, so it's a very different thing. But yes, I know that I'm having to think more about planning meals. And I've
Hmm.
always been a meal planner, but I'm actually really having to think about it. So there's a
Yeah.
lot more brain power going into it. You know, what can I make that might have some leftovers that they'll enjoy, so that, you know, if there is that night where we don't want to cook, because, you know, Paul and I are used to maybe just having some eggs with veggies in it or something like that, that we can actually just, we could have that and they can have those leftovers. So
Yeah.
it's a really interesting ball game as far as the the activity levels,
Yes.
adapting it to being able to still do my healthy routines, you know, to
Yes.
still get my workouts in.
Mm.
Um, and it's also been interesting from the perspective of a communication
Mhm.
aspect, because we're older, we are thinking about how we're helping one another.
Yes. Yeah.
And so we're communicating that. And Paul is somewhat older than what I am. So, you know, it is exhausting him more than it is me. I've actually at first found it tiring, but then I've started to find it uplifting,
Yeah.
because it has highlighted how much more I am capable of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And with Paul, we're talking more of a nighttime rather than just, you know, maybe sitting in front of the TV and watching
Mhm.
something mindless on telly. We're
Yeah.
now actually talking about different things. And isn't it really interesting how small people bring you together?
Absolutely. Yeah. We've noticed with um like Livy and Landon, and her village, for want of a better word,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know, um, Paige and Lindsay and Lisa, and they have just all embraced him and
Yeah.
love him. And I think, Lisa's always the girls are always focused on Landon to help Livia out, but then I've got Lisa who focuses on me.
Yes.
She is always checking in with me. Are you okay? Do you need anything? Do you
Yeah.
need me to watch Landon for a little bit? Those sort of things. So yeah, definitely having the village around you and having that communication and support, is wonderful as well. Because, talking about the communication, as I said, she's 19 now, 19 and a half. So I haven't had any dealings with daycare in
Cut.
15 years, 16 years, or anything like that. But for Livia, the thing too is she's still a teenager. So this is all new to her as well. And,
Yeah.
she's still growing and I'm still guiding her as her mum.
Mm.
So that can be a bit of a struggle. But, I said to her, as far as landing with daycare and everything, put me down as, I'm obviously down as an emergency contact,
Emergency
but,
contact.
put me down, CC me in, get them to CC me in with everything, so now it's, anything to do with daycare, I'm getting emails on that just to make sure she's across it all and that sort of thing. So yeah, definitely communication is a big thing that you find increases,
Yeah.
You know, I can honestly say probably 2, maybe 3 years ago, I remember a night I was sitting on my couch and I was crying, and it was like, I'm gonna be by myself in
I
4
know.
years.
I remember. I've got. Yeah. Yeah. I got tears in my eyes. I actually remember you talking to me about this. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna be alone in 4 years' time, but, in 2
No.
years, that changed. But
That changed dramatically.
I wouldn't change it back because I'm enjoying it so much. My
Yes.
life's more crazy, but I'm enjoying it so much.
Yeah. It's really interesting. And I'm also navigating some of the government organisations as well too, and so that's a real eye opener because I've never really had to do that
Mm.
as well. But just the support that's available from the government is amazing, really, when you
Amazing.
start to actually filter through what's available for
Yeah,
assistance. You go, oh my goodness, like this is amazing, really. And if you're not in that situation, you probably aren't aware of it, and
yes,
you think that the government isn't doing something, but there is so much that they do as well too.
yeah. I think too, like your experience at the moment is a lot different to mine
Oh,
because
totally. Mm,
I'm just raising, I'm helping Olivia raise this little baby.
mm,
And it's based off how I raise my children,
yeah,
whereas, the ages of your grandchildren at the moment, and it's not, you've got all these other aspects that have got, that you've got to adhere to, for want of a better word.
yes, yeah,
You've got to make sure that these government agencies, that you're checking in and that they're safe and all that sort of thing.
yeah.
So that can have a big impact too. But
Mm.
the other thing too, I'm sitting here listening to you talk about that. You've also got your elderly mother that I know that,
Oh, yeah.
that's a focus once a week as well.
Mm.
And I know sometimes you ring me up and you're like, ah.
Yeah, yes, particularly when yes, sometimes when she's unwell or something's happened, it's like a daily occurrence, and sometimes I think, where has my day gone?
Yeah, yeah,
But you come back to that life happens that we talked about last week, and it's like there'll always be some form of a workout that's happened. There'll always be some healthy meals that are being cooked.
yeah,
And if I can't cook them, I'm reaching out to someone else who will do them, or I'm
yeah,
organizing and in some other way.
mm,
Because if I don't take care of myself, if I don't nurture myself, I'm not going to be able to support, you know, everybody else that I need to be able to support as well too.
yeah,
So
absolutely. You're still doing your workouts every morning.
mm,
None of that has changed for you.
no.
Your life has just got a lot more busier and hectic. Um, but you're also finding your new normal, I guess.
Yeah, the
You
groove.
know, yeah, your new groove. Yeah,
Mm, yeah, and it's really interesting because we are coming into winter. So, I would get up early and go out for a walk. It's pitch black
mm,
outside. So I've gone, well, if I want to do that of a morning, I need to have a light, which I've got, and I can walk around the track because I'm then
yeah,
on my property. I'm not out on a road or out somewhere else. So we
yeah,
do have that racetrack that's there. So, and we know it's a kilometre basically. So
yeah,
you can walk around it, or I
yeah.
can walk around it. Yeah. And the wonderful thing is that I still get to see those gorgeous sunrises and everything like that.
Yes.
And the reason I walk first thing in the morning is, number one, it wakes me up.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I use to wake myself up. Lots of people use coffee. I don't. I get outside in the fresh air. Um, the second thing is that it just stimulates my mind. It gets my body moving, and I will particularly use walks throughout the day if I need to feel re-energized as well too, because I know that it helps me do that as well.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I'm going to neglect, there's strength workouts that I come and do with you guys in the studio, or whether I do them by myself. So
Yeah.
that still happens as well too. But it is definitely, I would have to say that at first, there was that hesitation, that big roadblock from me.
Yeah.
This is not, no, I don't think we're going to be able to do this. But then once you started to see how, and someone explained this to me, likened the kids at that age to plasticine, or
Mm-hmm.
Play-Doh as it's called these days, that they've got all of these lessons that they've learned in life thus far, but what you're doing is, you're reshaping them.
Yes.
And you're impacting their life in a more positive way. And you're caring for them and you're supporting them. And so, and it's been marvelous that, the principal actually stopped Paul yesterday and actually said, the behavior has changed. We have seen how much they are, not playing up, that
Yeah.
they're sitting, they're listening. It's just remarkable the change that has happened in them.
That's so
And
good.
that's a really positive thing. But as I've moved into it, after a week or so, I started to think about how I felt as a child, not having my father, then having a stepfather, and then getting a brother who was always the apple of everybody's eye, and how I felt personally unworthy of love.
Mm-hmm.
That everything had to be good enough for somebody to even recognize me as a person. I felt unseen, and I definitely felt unheard. I would hardly ever say a word as such as a child.
Yeah.
Very different these days. You won't shut me up, and I will voice my opinion on something. Um, so that, and I started to think about that, and I thought, how can I not support these kids?
Mm.
Because the emotional trauma that this had on you through your life.
Yeah.
So therefore, their situation, you can do this.
Yeah.
And so once I took that roadblock away and I told myself that I could do it, I have been able to just simply embrace it, as I said earlier,
Yeah.
and just take it on and think about the positive aspects of it. Because let's face it, Sal, we are mothers.
Yeah.
We know what that's like. Do we understand what homework is these days? Heck no. Am I learning so much stuff? Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
am. But how good is that for my aging brain?
Yeah. So good.
So
Mm.
good. So, mentally, it's more stimulating for me. Physically, it's more stimulating for me. From a relationship perspective, the communication is better. So that is an improvement in itself as well, too. So
Yeah.
there have been a lot of positives. Are there moments where I think, oh my goodness, I can't do this, or
Yeah.
I need to break free? And I will tell you a little story, and then we'll wrap it up. The other day, it was constant. This is, how your name goes. Dad, 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 Dad. And you keep getting that name all the time. And we got to about 8 o'clock at night, and I said, oh no, it was earlier. It was about a half an hour before bedtime, so it was probably about 7. And I said, they're watching a little bit of TV, so they'll go to bed in a half an hour. I'm going for a walk. And I went out in the dark, and I was out on the road out here, and a car went past me, and then a car turned around, that same car turned around and came back. And then a young couple, a guy and girl, they wind the windows down and they said, are you okay? Do you need a lift somewhere? Can we help you with anything?
Oh,
And I went, well, as I look at that, the support from, the
yeah.
wider community, because I do live in the country as well too. And I went, no, I'm just escaping I'm having a bit of me time and peace of mind. But thank you for that.
That's so nice.
It was so nice. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's so really interesting. So what would you take away from this, or what words of advice would you give somebody?
I think you just have to adapt. You can't, as you just said yourself, you had those barriers up and, oh, I
Yeah.
don't think I can do this, and you've adapted amazingly to it. All you can do is just go with the flow. We would lose our absolute minds if we just, stressed about every little thing at the moment, I think. So
Yeah.
we just go with the flow and do what we can, the best we can.
Yeah, like we found a lovely little park that hardly anyone goes to, and it's got balance bars and climbing and everything like that. Now, I'm an avid climber, but just the balance, like my balance has improved greatly in the last few weeks because I'm doing balance bars and jumping off of logs and all this type of stuff. So, yeah, from a physical perspective, being someone who's older, I have learnt the biggest lesson that I'm going to take away from this is that I am capable of more than I think I am.
Yeah.
And I think that with age, that we sometimes tell ourselves that we've done enough, that we're maybe not capable of something, but we are. And that's
Yeah,
the message that I want to leave today.
definitely.
Mm. Thanks for chatting today, Sel. Appreciate it.
Thank you for talking with me. Thank you for
Yeah.
having me, as always.
My pleasure. All right, ladies, hopefully you've got something out of it, and, maybe you are motivated to do just that little bit more, and that would be fabulous if you are. So take care, everybody. See you soon. See yourself.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.